Hello, you can hear me? This is officially on. Hi, I think everybody maybe needs to stand up for a quick second. You've been sitting. I feel you all like tired. Please stand for just 1 second. I'm going to lead you in a stretching exercise because I want to stretch too. So we go like this, and then we go like this, and then hug your neighbor, and then hug this neighbor. Oh, good. And then maybe shake this thing in here because you're going to feel a lot better. Oh, very nice. Give yourself a round of applause. Thank you. Hey, so my name is Emilie Baltz. And I work as an artist and an educator. And I think what we've heard about today are all of these amazing, inspiring, and incredible ways that we're transforming the way that we eat and how we think about eating. And most of my practice is based exactly on this question behind me: what if? And that question comes from a non-food related place, which is right here, which actually also is related to food. I grew up in Joliet, Illinois, just south of Chicago. And we would drive down these superhighways every day, and my dad would look at these things behind me, and he would call them out, and he would say, "You know what that is? What? That's a cloud factory." Oh. And this is where ice cream came from. What? So very quickly what I learned is that imagination and creativity was a way to transform the everyday into the exceptional. And that is my specific point of entry into the material of food. And I'm personally interested in food and food as a material for creativity because we have this incredible opportunity 3 times a day, sometimes more, sometimes less, that if we choose to change this material, if we choose to change how it looks, how it feels, how we interact with it, how we stand up and maybe plie instead of eat like this, we change our personal behavioral patterns. And that, to me, is the thing that is the most fascinating in the world. It's all of you, you incredible human beings. And when we do this, what I think is incredible is that as humans, we can actually enter into new worlds. And those new worlds are actually defined by our human technology. We perceive the world through our senses. We see the world, we smell the world, we hear the world, we touch the world. And when we start to change that, and we change it through food, I do believe that we can enter into a totally new space and prepare ourselves, not only just intellectually, but also physically and emotionally, for times that change and for new glorious futures ahead. I'll share with you a few examples from my own personal work. This is a project called Lickestra. It was made in collaboration with the artist and designer Carla Diana. And Lickestra is exactly what it says, is a licking ice cream orchestra. I'll see if we have a video that does work. Otherwise, I'm going to have to sing through it. And what you'll see as Lickestra comes to life is that it has a series of conductive ice cream cones that are placed in front of you. And when you lick it, so cheers for the lickers. Now, how Lickestra is made is that, as I said, there are a series of rapid prototyped ice cream cones, inside of which is embedded technology. They're capacitive sensors. So when you reach forward and lick, you complete a circuit. And so you trigger a sound. And those sounds can be variable, and that means that you're actually playing with your body. You're also playing with each other. And in essence, perhaps you're playing with your food. And this is a term that has become maybe the lingua franca of what I would say food design is sort of being called these days. Oh, it's a way to play with your food, right? We play with it, we make it different. How interesting. But if we actually deconstruct that a little bit more, play is a serious business. And we have right here 7 different definitions of what play is. And personally, I'm interested in this one: an act, way, or manner of proceeding, a maneuver. Because when we start to play, we enter, just like you did when you all stood up here, we hopefully enter into a new space in our bodies, and we enter into a new mindset that allows us to maybe see things that we had never seen before. Will Lickestra inhabit every home in the future? Maybe. Does it mean that suddenly we're able to do things with our bodies that we didn't do before? Maybe. And those are the questions that I'm interested in asking. And a recent project explored just that. How can we start to move through our food, through our senses, through our human technology in new ways? This is an image from the Bemis Center for Contemporary Arts in Omaha, Nebraska. I was there this fall to do a residency, and one of the projects that I delivered there was a 5-course meal that took place over 4 galleries within the Bemis Center. Each course was inspired by a different human sense, and each guest had a different way through. So you and I could arrive together, we could then go to a different course, we would meet again, we would go to a different one, we would meet again. So we're mixing people, we're moving, we're shaping, and we're actually shaking up how we eat. Each of those courses had a certain icon that was dedicated to them. So you would go through maybe hearing, smell, touch, sight, and taste. Taste, somehow I designed something that looks a little bit like an on-off button, I realize. And I asked myself questions like this. When I thought about what it would mean to create a course about smell, what if we could smell with our elbows? What would that be like? This is when the surreal, the nonsense, perhaps starts to create new sense of the world. The outcome of that was this. This is a table that I call the dream drum. And when it's hit upon, it serves as a dining table. And when you hit it, poof, clouds of scented vapor come up. And so what happens is that you have all of these adults, these very fancy buttoned up adults, suddenly poking and pounding and then drumming. And your whole dining experience becomes a playground for smell, and a playground for sight, and a playground for interaction. This was also served completely in the dark and only illuminated by flashlights. So you would see these smoke signals that would come up in front of you. When I started to think about touch, this is something that I've always dreamed of. And a lot of this is about going to a place of childlike wonder and saying, what if my table could come alive? What would it be and what would happen? Well, this is what happened. This is a still of a 30-foot-long dining table, which came alive when diners sat down around it. And as you're seated, hands come out from the side. They ask you and invite you and pull you in. Your hands are brought in, and you start getting massaged, and you're given food that you have to crack and open and eat with your hands. Delight, wonder, and a new physical relationship to how you eat is revealed. Lastly, I'm in Omaha at this point, and barbecue, grilling is a thing. So there's a requisite like steak, some meat course, right? Grills. Now what if grills could sing? Do you imagine what this would be like in terms of picnics and barbecues? Well, it actually can happen. There's a series of Rubens tubes that appeared. Rubens tubes are these long aluminum tubes filled with propane, and the sound wave is expressed in the fire wave. So the room is sonorized, and I'll share with you a little excerpt here, if we can play this video. If it plays. What you see in back of you here in this muted human being was the diva of grilling, who then invited everyone to take hot dogs. I'll skip to the next slide, perhaps. So you have these surround sound grilling stations over which marshmallows and hot dogs are roasted. And I swear to you, if you put those two things together, if they're both handmade, it's absolutely delicious. It then was all cooled off with a course around sight, around which guests gathered large ice block coffee tables. Clear soups and clear drinks were served. And as you looked down through your meal, you started to have a completely different, transparent visual relationship with this. And if you have ever tried putting anything on a very large ice block, you also know that it spins and moves. So this course was completely about using the material itself to manipulate our visual relationship. Actually, we eat with our eyes first. So what happens when we start to move that around? Quite literally. And at the end of this course, the light blocks faded to black. So our eyes suddenly were open to a new source of light, and hopefully to a new source of wonder. And these for me are all methods of play. Perhaps completely irrational, perhaps completely nonsensical. But when going through it, the outcome of what happens after eating in this way is that people who never met, people who never laughed together, people who never smiled together or squealed together are suddenly doing this. And new bonds and new relationships are formed. And I think that's probably one of the most fascinating things about food. It's why we're all here today. Because it's a universal language and more than anything allows us to come in contact with ourselves and to understand better how you exist, how I exist. And that for me is perhaps the greatest functional use of play. Louis Armstrong said this, and I had this on my very first website in the year 1999. What we play is life. And I can imagine this as a future, and I think it is my dream, that if we were able to move through life with this kind of joy, with this delight, and those spaces in between all of us, instead of filled with emptiness, with potential negativity, with conflict, we're actually filled with stories and interactions that were full stories of body, of mind, and of spirit. I think that would be an incredible, incredible vessel for food to place in our life. And I get these inspirational quotes every day. I wanted to share one with you. This comes from William H. Davies, and it seemed appropriate. I've been interested in this connection of holistic understanding. And William has stated, what is this life if, full of care, we have no time to stand and stare? No time to stand beneath the boughs and stare as long as sheep or cows. No time to see when woods we pass, where squirrels hide their nuts in grass. No time to see in broad daylight, streams full of stars like skies at night. No time to turn at beauty's glance and watch her feet, how they can dance. No time to wait till her mouth can enrich that smile her eyes began. A poor life this is, full of care. We have no time to stand and stare. And this image for me is an example of that. If we start to fill our life with the ingredients and also the interactions that give us a moment for pause, that give us a moment for connection between you and I, and also between me and me, I do think that we're on our way to a really beautiful, delicious, and wonderful future. Thank you.